You're listening to Small Business, Big Stories, the Queensland Small Business Commissioners podcast with Dominique Lamb. There are more than 482,000 small businesses in Queensland and counting. These are their stories. Welcome back to Small Business, Big Stories. I'm very excited today because I have a wonderful guest with me, Holly Hunt from Hunt & Co, or also known for her work with women in digital as well. And the greatest thing about Holly is that whilst we've actually never met in person until today, I feel like I've known Holly for many years just simply by floating around some of the circles that she's in, you know, whether it's been with big retailers, whether it's been with big tech companies, whether it's been through other business consultants, even my husband, and apparently our children go to the same daycare as well. I feel like Holly is everywhere when it comes to small business and what they might need, particularly women in business when it comes to digital. So welcome to the show, Holly. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, I completely agree. When you walked in, I was like, do we hug?
Do we hug? I mean, it's a little bit like that, isn't it? Tell me about Hunt & Co, and then we'll talk about women in digital.
Yeah, so Hunt & Co is a boutique recruitment agency. We work with value-aligned businesses to help them hire great talent, diverse talent, and build high-performing teams.
Fantastic.
Women in Digital is a national membership organisation. We host 20, 30 events throughout the year. We bring people together for our Women in Digital Awards Gala. So I guess commercially underpinning all of that is our membership fees and then also sponsorship of our events.
Tell me about the origin.
After I finished university, I did HR and international business, and I ended up going backpacking to South America for a couple of years. And over there, I had a really fortunate opportunity to run a tour agency. Really a sort of strange or unique experience. But when I returned back to Australia with a HR degree, I thought, you know, if I want to build a HR career, recruitment is probably a great place to start. And once I landed in recruitment, I noticed so many things when I was interviewing candidates, particularly those candidates building careers in technology. So females and males would present so differently for interviews. Females would always sort of downplay salary expectations, downplay their ability, and their male counterparts often would really talk them up. As we know, if women don't meet 9 out of 10 criteria points on a job ad, they won't actually apply. And counter that to male counterparts who often, are very happy to throw their hat in the ring for anything. These are some of the observations that I made in the industry. I found that the events in the industry weren't the ones that I wanted to attend, and that, there was just a lack of role models available. At the time, I was really struggling with my career and was fortunate enough to have a mentor take me under her wing. And the amazing thing about that mentor was that she completely changed my perspective on the value that I would have as a recruiter, as a salesperson in a business. So I continued to build that HR career and, with a greater sense of confidence thanks to that mentor that guided me. And I reached a point where I thought, well, there's so many young women that actually could really benefit out of having a mentor as well. Fast forward, Women in Digital was born, a mentoring program that connected senior women and younger women in the industry.
That's really exciting. You had your mentor, you took the big sort of a leap into small business. What did that look like practically in the beginning? Was it working under your stairs with no staff? Like what does it look like?
Yeah, I've got a really supportive family. So I was still living at home. My parents were small business owners as well. And my dad always encouraged me to, take a leap of faith and believe in myself. So whilst I was working in a full-time job, I was obsessed with my side hustle. I just kept growing it. And I got to a point where I realized, I could probably live off this side hustle. And if I invested more energy, I could keep going. So, the day that I took the leap of faith, did my little ABN registration, I was like, wow, all right, I'm doing this. And then the big moment for me was sending my first big invoice and just being like, okay, I really have a business, and once it got paid, I was like, okay, this is working now. And I can see that there's a viable future for this. But I was really fortunate to have that family support. I know that a lot of other small business owners don't have that. So absolutely hats off to those people that are juggling mortgages, families, and taking the leap of faith with a business.
It's really interesting because there's currently 2.5 million small businesses across Australia, and 35% of them are run by women. And of those 35%, 67.3% will have a part-time job. Yeah. So it's not surprising to me that when you say, this is how I started, but I was still working and I just wanted to make sure it would work, and then I would send my invoice. In your recruitment experience, do you think you see women show the same hesitation around just not going all in?
The ones that I work with that I guess can afford to work with a recruiter, no. They're often very confident and really sort of don't necessarily demonstrate that. But I think for those who are still growing their business, yes, absolutely. I do get to speak to a lot of those women through Women in Digital, and I think there is that sense of responsibility that they really need to make sure that they're not derailing the family, their career. They want to make sure that this is a foolproof option.
And with your business now, what does it look like? How many staff do you have? How, obviously you're running lots of events, and events take lots of people.
Yes.
How does that work?
Yeah, so our team is really scaled up and down depending on, how the market is, what, my capacity is. So I've got 2 little girls at home, 1 and 2 and a bit. So it's very busy. And I made the decision to sort of scale back the recruitment team and just selectively take on projects over the next sort of, 12, 24 months as they're, so little. On the Women in Digital side, it's very busy. So we've got a couple of team members there that, take care of a lot of the events. So those 2 support me. And if things change in the future, I'll regrow that recruitment team. But for now, it's me taking on projects with clients that I love.
It sounds like you got your finger in a few different pies as well. How does that practically play out in terms of, you've got so many balls in the air, but just in terms of making it viable?
Yeah, it's really tricky juggle, but they are quite complementary. So I find myself, putting on my Hunt & Co hat one day and then saying, no, you need to really intentionally put on your Women in Digital hat. And Women in Digital is, if I had 2 children, Women in Digital would be the needy one. It's very busy. There's lots to do. There's lots of admin. And so I guess I have to, really intentionally say today is a Hunt & Co day, today is a Women in Digital day. But, I think it's something that has been a really beautiful way for me to express my love for the industry, my love for helping people in their careers.
I think some people would refer to you as sort of the queen of the network when it comes to digital. How important are those networks, do you think, for small business owners? And how do they break into them?
It might be breaking into a network. It might also be creating your own network. I think we've all got suppliers that we work with, vendors that we work with, customers. And, I'm really fortunate that, whilst I've got the Women in Digital community around me, I've also got those suppliers and those relationships that, when things are tough, they're really supportive and they can help me through. And then on the flip side, when things are great, we're celebrating and high-fiving together. So I can think of, one particular partner, Bespoken, which is a PR agency we work with. A couple of months ago, I sat down with the director, Sarah Morgan, and I said, hey, this I'm really struggling with this strategy piece. And she was like, no worries, let's go and get a wine. Let's talk this through. She's, a customer for me. She's also a vendor to me. And, we've just built a really great relationship. So I think, it's finding those people that are value aligned and making sure it's a reciprocal relationship and that sort of community. If there's something great happens, I'm like, Sarah, this worked. This is amazing. And it just feels so great because you can't always share things with your team that you want to. As a business owner, there's certain things that are appropriate and certain things that aren't. But finding other fellow business owners to, collaborate with, to strategize with has been a game changer for my confidence and my sense of community.
You hear lots, or we hear lots, certainly when we travel around the state, we hear about sort of the top 3 things that small business owners are concerned about. And normally within that 3, one is skill shortage. And particularly in the digital space, whether it's, cybersecurity, whether it's coding, or whether it's, design or whatever it is, you must hear it as well. Where do you think the people went? That's the question we get asked. Like, was it COVID? Did they just disappear overnight? Is it that we're not bringing enough of them in?
Yeah.
Where do you find the people and where did they go?
I know. I think COVID really accelerated the adoption of technology skills across a number of businesses. So with that, the talent that was in the market has, been diluted. They've been absorbed by a lot of large companies. We have global businesses that are hiring our local talent. It's not that we have less talent and they've disappeared. They're still here. And actually, we've got a lot of talent moving from interstate and overseas because they want our lifestyle. But we, with the ramp up and the kind of exponential growth of AI and the need to protect ourselves from cybersecurity threats, we are seeing more and more businesses struggle to acquire that talent. And what we really need to do is empower small businesses to train their talent and identify the talent that they should be investing in.
Let's unpack that a little bit. I mean, what would be your advice to small business owners if, they were to think about training their people? And then also, how do they retain them? How do they keep them in a market where at the moment it's all about money, right? There's constantly people offering more money to steal your staff. How do you train them, and then how do you bond them to your business?
Yeah, I think, what I've seen, the businesses that are able to retain amazing talent are the ones that A, are investing in their skill development, and B, the employees that feel tied or connected to the purpose of the company. So, I think a lot of small businesses, we are so in the weeds of just, we've just got to make payroll, we've just got to, hit our profit goals. Something that I've seen, the best small businesses take the time out of the business to actually develop a really great purpose and vision that then employees will rally around and actually feel more connected to over time. So somebody coming along and offering, an extra $5,000 pay rise is like, well, actually, I'm pretty committed to this company. I feel like this is where I should be right now. And then, back to the skills piece, they feel like they're continuing to grow and develop in their careers. It's when people start to feel stagnant, particularly digital and technology specialists, that they feel, it's time for them to move on. So for small business owners, I would say take a bit of time out of the business to really figure out what your purpose is, what your vision and your values are. Hire people that are aligned to your values. And I think, we can all spend time Googling values and just pulling them down. But, maybe spending time thinking about the last 12, 24 months and those moments that have mattered. So for some, I know a company that I worked with recently, they have the value of curiosity. And what that then means is when they're recruiting talent, if the candidates that they're interviewing don't ask questions and they're not, kind of delving further, it's a really crystallizing moment where they go, this is a lovely candidate, but they aren't actually value aligned. We need people that are curious, that are going to ask great questions. So having that clarity up front around who we are, who's actually going to fit in our business, then really translates to that hiring process, and meaning that you're going to have the right people in your business who are then going to be worth investing in.
I really love that, because I have this whole presentation that I give every time I get rolled out. It probably happens to you as well. As sort of a female business leader, I talk about the concept of values and how important they are. And so I went through this process early on in my career where, of all things, I decided to be a bodybuilder.
Amazing.
And it was amazing. And I decided that if I could, perform or, compete in wearing very little clothing in front of 300 people, there was very little I couldn't do, right? But part of that process was...
Logic in that.
Yeah, definitely. Part of the process was that I went through this sports psychology where we had to pick 5 non-negotiable values that were reflective of who we were. And so I would have these 5 values on the lock screen of my phone, and I would use them to analyze all of my behaviors in business, but also, in my normal life. So, would a determined person hit snooze on their alarm in the morning, or would they go to the gym? Would a compassionate person behave like this? Would a kind person, all of these things. And there was sort of this projection of what I wanted other people to see me as. And I think in the concept of business, of course, with brand, that's so true. How does that relate to women in digital? What are your sort of key values for that brand?
Yeah, so at Women in Digital, our value sets are an evolving piece, but one of our taglines is success through collaboration. So that value is really important to us, because we see that, nobody's really successful on their own. You need partners, you need mentors, you need like an army of people around you. And so, not only for our members that value translates through the activities that we do, but also internally that we, focus on building those relationships. So we, the PR agency I mentioned before, we could have a really transactional relationship with them, but our value says actually no, it's really important to invest in those relationships, because that collaboration will take us further.
That's so interesting. So funnily enough, part of our mindset study talks about these 6 mindsets of small business owners and sort of what they're focused on. And we know sort of like their top 4 focuses are, customer, competitor, innovation sits in the middle. risk-taking is right down the end because they want to be stable. They actually don't necessarily want to take risks. But when we look at their mindsets, we see that business owners will either be a soloist, a diligent operator, they might be an innovator, there is a collaborator in there. And I wonder if for you, have you always been like that? Have you always sort of built a team around you knowing that you'll get a better outcome, or is that something that's sort of evolved as you've evolved?
Yeah, I think that's something that's evolved. My parents being small business owners, I've sort of studied them, and they are soloists. They do not have a community around them. And, you know, it was a very intentional decision that, you know, I wanted to feel part of a community. And I think, to be honest, on a personal note, I think that's why I went for my husband, because he's got this huge network and this huge family. I was like, all right, I'm surrounding myself with community people. So yes, I think it was definitely an intentional decision. And, you know, that early interaction with the mentor, who's, you know, still a really close friend of mine, was pivotal. And I think that really, you know, instilled in me, you know, how important it would be to have people that cared about me, not just because there was a commercial transaction, but because there was, you know, genuine long-term kind of alignment.
For many of our listeners, they might not be in sort of southeast Queensland, and so in terms of interacting with networks or finding the right business network for them can be difficult. And I think sometimes when we talk to business owners, depending on what industry they are in, they might not even identify as small business, like they might identify as a tradie or they might identify as a lawyer as opposed to a small business owner. What's your advice for finding your tribe when it comes to small business?
I love meetup.com. There are a lot of community events on meetup.com, and I think you need to, you know, spend an hour at these events and see whether or not it's a network for you. You know, I'm not originally from Brisbane, and Brisbane is a very I guess, tight-knit community. So when I arrived here at 17, I had to build my own network. My parents didn't have a network here. So I couldn't even count the number of events that I've been to, and just, you know, have gone to some and gone never again. And others have, you know, repeatedly gone back. So I think it's just a matter of investing the time to get out there.
Interestingly, when we are out and about in the regions, we find that there is a lot more sort of face-to-face out there, particularly in like sort of regional, remote and rural, mainly because connectivity is not always there, right? Yeah. So access to internet is not always a given. But aside from that, what's your advice to, say, business owners that can't find their network and then they want to start one? Because, I mean, that's quite an interesting jump for you. I mean, you had a recruitment business and then you have created an entire community.
Yeah, I think identifying a problem that not only you face, but that, you know, others that you know, want to work with face. So for me, I knew that I was meeting a lot of young women that struggled with the confidence. They didn't know how to navigate a career in technology. So it made sense the topics that I would host the events with the topics that I would host would service that particular target market that I wanted to work with. So I think, you know, stepping back and actually thinking about, you know, what your target market is and how you can help them. And, you know, creating something on meetup.com. It's like $20 a month to host a networking event there, and that will really help to build a community, because meetup.com do promote your events to similar people. And, you know, tag a coffee shop and just get together for coffee with these people. Like, I guess I've always found it quite natural to bring people together for events. I realise it's not that easy for everybody else, but, you know, would be happy to provide any more, you know, guidance or support to anybody else who wanted to do that. But those would be the three kind of key steps. You know what the problem is for your network or your market, create an online platform for people to find you, and then, you know, go forth and just host something casual. One of my mantras is excellence over perfection. It doesn't need to be perfect, and I think that's often the obstacle to doing something like this. We feel like it needs to be, you know, this full-scale perfect event, perfect name tags, perfect everything, but really people often just want to come together to connect.
What has been one of your biggest challenges as a female business owner entering such a very male-dominated industry and then creating a network for, you know, what are basically other tall poppies or outliers?
I would say it's been an interesting journey. I've found some amazing male clients allies who have just been so incredibly supportive. And then I've also encountered the boys club and felt that, you know, resistance of not necessarily wanting to include me as a supplier or vendor, because they've already got their, you know, they're already working with a bunch of mates they went to school with. So I think think that's just been a journey of going, accepting that there'll be a range of people that won't be aligned to me, and that's okay. We've actually recently done a Women in Digital discourse, and we're yet to release the report. But one of the sort of findings that I'll share with you is that 51% of women feel there is an entrenched boys club at their workplace, and that's often an inhibitor to their career growth. And I think as a small business owner, I have experienced that myself. But the fantastic news is you quickly know whether or not someone's your person or whether they're value aligned. And there are those great male and female clients out there that will work with me, or partners that really believe in what I do.
Do you think that they know?
Yes.
Do you think these businesses know that there is a boys club, or they think it's been dealt with?
I don't think they really think there's a boys club or that there's a problem, because the natural answer is, I can choose who I want to work with. I like these people, and they feel familiar, so I want to work with them. So I think, that's just a blind spot. And, really, if they do want to continue their business that way, then that's totally fine as well, because, of course, there are people on the flip side, females who will only work with other female business owners. But the reality is that by doing that, by not working with a diverse group, whether that's employees, stakeholders, customers, that you're missing out on a part of the market. You're also missing out on gains through innovation. If we're designing products and we want to target males and females, different ethnicities, cultures, then, we really need to have products and services that are designed by all people for all people. Otherwise, they're just not going to be suitable, and those customers will go and be serviced by somebody else.
So it's really about, making sure that you have a workplace or develop a workplace that's reflective of everyone in some way, or someone that they can connect to so that they feel secure and welcome there, which is really about creating that employee value proposition, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I guess the question is, where does it stop, right? Like, how reflective do you have to be? What does that look like? Yes. But I think at least identifying you've got a problem would be a good start, right?
That's right. Yeah, I think it depends, what your business goals are. For some people, it's just not a priority. They're happy with the target market, the employee base that they have. For those that are looking for opportunities to grow and evolve, get more creativity, then, this might be a place to dabble and, start. And it's your own journey. Choose your own adventure.
It sounds like it might be a really good place to tap into new demographics for staff, though, if you've got a shortage. So
absolutely.
We'll just send them your way. Thanks for listening to Small Business Big Stories. I hope today's discussion finds the people who need it. And for more inspiration on how to transform your small business, keep tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favourite platform. And if you have a business question for myself or my guests, we'd love to hear from you. Just follow the link in our show notes and send us an email. I'm Dominique Lamb, the Queensland Small Business Commissioner. Until next time.